Hello and welcome to episode 11 of the Ducky Obrien show, and today I'll be going over Velocipastor. I'm gonna be speaking a little bit softly because I'm recording this at like 4 a.m. right now and I don't want to wake up anybody. This is gonna be a little bit of an ASMR like podcast. Anyways, Velocipastor was recommended to me by Taka, so thanks Taka. If you guys have any movie recommendations, let me know. Captain Passive Aggressive gave me Upgrade and Kung Fury, and those were awesome recommendations. I watch movies people recommend me. Anyways, going into it, if you don't know, Velocipastor is exactly as it sounds. It's about a pastor who can transform into a velociraptor, and it is a very, very enjoyable movie. But it is one of those movies that are so bad intentionally that it becomes amazing. So there's a general gist of the plot. There's ninjas involved. And for my short review, if people want to tune out, I did have fun with it. I don't think it's a good movie, but I had a lot of fun with it. Alright, moving right along. I'll go straight into what I enjoyed about it and then my nitpicks, and then we'll kind of end there. Anyway, so what I enjoyed about it, it's very goofy. It's very goofy and it doesn't take itself seriously at all. And I could feel when I watched the movie that people were just having fun with it. That's something you don't really feel a lot in a lot of these AAA blockbuster or Hollywood type of movies where you're watching it and you just don't feel the fun or love of cinema or acting or whatever they're creating, the joy of creation in the film. It just feels like it was generated from a list, checking boxes off, being like, we need this for a movie in order to make money, right? And so for this film, it's not perfect by any means. In fact, it's very flawed, and I'll get into that later. But I could feel when I watched it that people were just having fun with it. They're goofing. Maybe they weren't, but that's what it felt like. I like the general humor in the movie when they do use it correctly. There's pros and cons with the sense of humor in the movie as well. It's so silly and outrageous. For example, there's this one part, and I knew I was gonna love the movie when I first saw this scene in the very beginning of the movie. The pastor loses his parents, and then he goes to China to go look for like himself in China. There's like a father figure who's like, why don't you go somewhere where God can't follow you, and then your heart will lead you to the right place. Theologically speaking, that's not quite correct, but anyways, no one cares about that. So he goes there, and then the scene is, just imagine a dude, and it's poorly shot, and he's just going through a random forest, and he's like forcibly going through branches. He doesn't need to, he can totally go around it, but he's going through them, just like using his arms. And then he looks sort of somewhere in the general direction of the camera and goes, China. This is quite possibly one of the funniest scenes I've ever seen in a movie because of how goofy it is. The joke is that since they have no budget, they can't really film in China, so they just film in a random forest, and they're calling it China. After that, there's like a girl who gets shot with an arrow, and then she's like rolling down the forest for a surly long time, and then she hands the dude a talent. But before that, he was looking at a compass, and he's like, ooh, China is east. Like, what? It doesn't even make sense. But yeah, and then he grabs the talent, it scratches him, which gives him the power to turn into a velociraptor. Towards the second half of the movie, it does fall apart. The humor in the first half is a lot more tighter. Everything seems to be threaded together more. You can see the logic behind the humor connect with other bits a little bit better, and the second half kind of falls apart. It's a little bit looser in my opinion. Anyways, going into the stuff that I want to nitpick, I think the biggest flaw to the movie is that it relies too much on making fun of the fact that it has no budget. So I'll give you an example. In the very beginning of the film, the pastor goes out to be more like a priest, a priest goes out and he's waving hi to his parents, and then the car explodes and they both die. Because they have no budget, they just have text that says, something like CGI of car burning. And it just goes back to that. It's like, oh no, he's in horror because he lost his parents. And then it goes back to the shot and it's just like CGI of car burning. The main point of that joke is that they have no budget as opposed to what's happening in the situation right now. When your main joke is we have no budget and you do that over and over again, it kind of gets very gimmicky and very repetitive. And they do that throughout the film. And it's not the only joke. So when they stray away from that, then the humor is fantastic. And then when they use it sparingly, it's awesome. So I'll give an example of where they use it in a pretty funny way, where it's not the main point of the joke. So there's a scene where he first turns into a velociraptor, and then he's attacking a dude in the park, and and there's like a hooker just watching, and then there's like a doll head that just rolls through. And it's pretty funny. The joke is that he just ripped off the head. It looks really comical, the framing of the shot, and it also ties into the fact that they have no budget. And that's okay. That's pretty funny. But when you constantly point to the fact that you have no budget as a main point of the joke, it kind of gets old. So I'll give you another example of a movie. I talked about it a little bit earlier. I watched Kung Fury recently. This is like a 7-year-old movie. It was released onto YouTube for free. I forget the YouTube channel. It might be Laser Unicorns if I recall correctly, but it got age gated, so you have to sign in to YouTube to watch it. And it is a fantastically hilarious and absurd movie. I think it was really well made. And if you like freeze the frames and dissect it, you can see, there's some flaws there because it's not a professional making a high budget production. It's just a person making a movie. I think the production values were fantastic for what it was. They don't really go and make fun of the fact that they have no budget to make the movie. I'm using that term relatively speaking because you can spend millions and millions into making a movie. The costs never end. They don't point out the fact that they're like, oh, we don't have as much money. There's some goofy scenes where it's clearly they kind of poke fun that they're using very practical effects. So I'm thinking of the scene. If you haven't seen the movie, it's about Hitler time traveling. Okay, he's the main villain. There's a part where he calls the police station. He's like, "Is this the police?" And the detective's like, "Yes." And then he's like, "F you," and he starts shooting into the phone, and the bullets are coming out of the phone, and you see the phone dangling on fish wire. And it looks very goofy, but the main point isn't that they have no budget. It's just the absurdity of the situation. It's Hitler shooting up a police station through a phone. That's the main point of the joke. The fact that the phone looks very goofy dangling on fish wire is just like the cherry on top. So that movie, it doesn't really try to point out that there's no budget. It might have had a budget because I think the movie looks really good. But yeah, like, they're not pointing out the fact, oh, we have no budget. They don't do that. What they do is they try to mask that as much as possible and make it look and feel as good as possible. Velocipastor, I wish it did the same thing because there's a lot of good humor in this movie. It's just so goofy. But the part where the pimp is in the confession booth and he's just going off about his crimes. It's a very fun monologue where he's like, oh yeah, I stole candy from the baby and then I had to kill the baby so there were no witnesses. And it's just like absurd. It's hilarious. To me at least. The humor might not land for a lot of people depending on your preference. Kung Fury and Velocipastor are my type of like bad movies that I super enjoy because they don't take themselves seriously and they know why they're here. But yeah, that's one thing I wish Velocipastor did was there's one too many jokes where they poke fun of the fact that they have no budget. They don't really need to do that because I feel like you're denigrating yourself as a defense mechanism so people can't make fun of you for looking a little goofy. The movie is just funny as heck. Now, is this gonna be for everybody? Of course not. But if you're bored and you're like, man, just want to watch a goofy movie that doesn't take itself seriously, and you're a fan of bad movies like myself, I would highly recommend checking out the Velocipastor. Now, it's not quite child friendly, I gotta say that. Obviously, it swears. There's some themes that might not be friendly for kids. There's a little bit of violence that's very cartoonish, but again, might not be safe for kids. It's putting it out there, probably not the best family friendly movie, depending on, if you're a parent. I don't know what standards you have set for your kids, but I'm just pointing that out just in case, like a dad hears this or a mom and they're like, let's watch Velocipastor because Ducky told us. And they're like, oh my god, why did you recommend this movie to us? Anyways, there you go. It's gonna be it. It's just gonna be a short, impromptu movie review. There's no script or anything, so hope you guys enjoy this. Thank you to Taka for recommending that I watch this movie. If you guys have any suggestions, let me know. And we do have, I plan on making this a regular feature, but I do want to have movie nights on the weekends, like either Friday night or Saturday night, where we watch a movie together. We did it recently. We watched Sky High, and we watched Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey. So I'm gonna release reviews for those movies as well. And that's it. Anyone can join. I would love to have you guys there, and I will love to have people on these little podcast episodes where we just talk about the movie. If you're interested, just feel free to contact me wherever, on YouTube, Twitch, email. Speaking of email, if you're listening to this on the audio version and you would like to contact me, you can send me an email at duckyobrien@gmail.com. That's spelled DUCKYOBRIENSHOW@gmail.com. That's my email. Thank you so much for dropping by and listening. Thank you so much if you're watching on YouTube. I appreciate you guys. And thank you to my homies for recommending me movies and spending time to watch it with me. I appreciate you guys. That's gonna be it, as always. Hope you guys are staying safe and sane out there, and I will catch you guys next time.